Hello, and welcome to Greek the Week. I am Mona Duncan. We are on Keys to Recovery today. We have been looking at, I'll go ahead and bring this up. We have been looking at the pleasure pain syndrome, which is looking at, and the syndrome simply means it's kind of a habit, something we've fallen into and keep repeating it and maybe not even given thought to it to evaluate it as to whether it's effective or ineffective. And so I had 8 thoughts in keeping with the pleasure pain syndrome. And we're over to key number 7 today, which is the key to recovery. And we're going to be looking at what are some of those keys. Well, being aware, being aware of what we are thinking, what we are doing, being aware of the feedback that we're getting from others that we are speaking with, talking with, working with, because we begin to know, we begin to get more legitimate feedback. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, we need to become aware and to take personal responsibility for our thoughts, our actions, our interacting with other people, and just learn to be a responsible person and continually to self evaluate, to look within to see, am I being the person that I really think I am, that I want to be, that I have tried to be, but sometimes to slide back, to continually self evaluate, to look at, is this who I am? Is this what I want to be? And then whenever we, whatever it is, because it seems like we're always wanting changes, and changes are happening whether we want them or not. And how do I adjust to those changes? And so it's looking at making a plan, at a plan where we can be stable and can be, and then also to get bottom line honest. We've got to get really honest with ourselves because I find that we can, I find that I can, and I'm assuming that we're more alike than we're different. And that sometimes we think we've got it all right, but then we realize that there's something there that's not quite up to snuff. So then this is just kind of a circle of life, and how this is us, this is you, this is me, and we are within a family of some kind. We all have friends or we have other people that we engage with, and then we go out into the community. And then, of course, the rest of that is the world in and of itself, whether it is about knowing about the world in itself through the paper or through travels or whatever. But when one is in the basement of life, the world has a tendency to overlook us, to ignore us. And so it's being in community, and it's being that you are important and that you belong in this world. You're important. So what happens all too often in that pleasure pain, I'm looking at, these are 2 trees, and one tree, we're going to start at the top, that whenever we have a lot of pain, and how often that pain manifests itself because we allow it to a large degree. And then looking at pain and how that pain can be diminished and it can be healed. A lot of it has to do with because of our choices, but it definitely is much more effective. So anyway, we're going to start here, and we look at the pain, and it begins to go downhill because we don't see the purpose in pain. Maybe you were fired, maybe something happened, maybe there was a wreck, or you fell and broke a leg, and there's a lot of pain and a lot of time for something to heal, but you don't see any purpose in acknowledging the pain. And then we have a tendency to give up the challenge of trying to communicate with someone or trying to make things different so that we can, and then we become distracted because we want to reduce that pain. And that distraction sometimes leads to medication to try to escape the pain. But that distraction and the medication both can be effective or non-effective. It can be getting into, just let me have that big jar of banana pudding. We could maybe be wanting things that's not so good for us, and wanting something to, let me not think about this pain anymore, whatever kind of a pain it is, whether it's a physical pain or an emotional pain. And wallowing in these pains or keeping them for face value and at the front of thinking, it has a tendency to change our mood, to be kind of dark all the time as opposed to lighthearted. And then we begin to self-depreciate. Not only does this wound hurt, not only does this love destroyed pain hurt, but there's that self-depreciation of I'm nobody, nobody cares, nobody cares. And it leads to shame and guilt, and it leads to beginning to take the pleasure in pain. And what do I mean by that? I mean by the fact that we begin to think, well, you just think your problem's bad. Just wait till I tell you about my problems. Just wait till I tell you about that, how she done me wrong. Just wait till I tell you how he done me wrong. We begin to take pleasure in pain and begin to want everybody to know what all those problems were. And it leads us into being addicted, to being fragmented, and to being divided. Whereas as we begin to wake up, wasn't that one of the things we looked at before in our circle? Becoming aware is waking up. As we begin to wake up and we begin to look around and we see, what, this purpose, maybe what that person said that wounded you so deeply, you finally can begin to see that, what, there was an element of truth in that. I just didn't want to hear it. But we begin to see the purpose in the pain and how we can begin to heal from it in many ways. And so then we begin to accept the challenge of pain, whether it means just age-wise. I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago, just twice a month that comes up to go see your doctor, and was saying, well, at this age, do you exercise? Well, you need to walk a little more. You need to eat a few more vegetables. So sometimes we need to accept the challenge of how we can overcome that pain. And then beginning to overcome failure, because the more aware we become, the more we can understand about what we are wanting or not wanting or doing or not doing, we can begin to overcome failures. And definitely that reduces the pain in and of itself. And then we begin to gain worth that, hey, I have a little more energy now than I did previously. And we become more self-disciplined and looking at the bottom line and making sure that we're, and we begin to love, to like life, to like people, maybe more than we did at one time because we were in so much pain. And then to have a little bit of fun, which leads us to, once we accept the pain of this world, it leads to wholeness, healthiness, and fulfilling. And so, in looking at, we've looked before at the behavior card, how our behaviors are important. And we have the front wheels, that's the doing and the thinking, and the back wheels that are the feelings and the physiology. But I want a rocket ship. And in having a rocket ship, in getting off of the ground, whether, whenever NASA is going to blast off, they sit there and it kind of shakes a while because it takes a lot of lift and thrust to overcome the pull and drag that gravity and that whatever is in the air is going to be. It's going to try to keep us down. So we need to have a lot of lift and thrust to overcome that pull and drag. And then trust our instrument panel. I have a friend who is a pilot, and he talks about the fact that the most difficult thing for him to learn initially in being a pilot was the fact that what you see and the way you're feeling internally or emotionally, you want to lean. It's like you want to go to the right or the left more. Or you want to lean a little bit as opposed to flying straight. And so we have to trust our instrument panel. I read another story not too long ago about a person that instantly they just went into a fog that was blinding and you could not see, you couldn't see anything. And so they trusted their instrument panel to take them through that blinding fog and for them to come down below and find the landing. So we have to
Mm.
trust our instrument panel, which is our physiology. Trust it. And then up and away. Once we begin to learn those things, that it takes a lot of energy to get up and actually do it, to overcome that pull and drag of keep procrastinating and keep just holding on to what the status quo is. So we're going to go up and away. And we do that through meditation, through thinking about things, through the circle that we're there, through thinking about, becoming aware of. We begin to evaluate how is this helping? Is it hurting? How is it helping? How is it hurting? We begin to have more movement so that we can, move around a little bit easier. And then if we fail to do these things, what happens all too often, whether it's in a car or whether it is in a rocket ship, that we crash and burn. And it's through medicating, addictions, violence, and being unloving and unkind and harsh to others. So, what's the plan of action? To learn to have fun and at the same time, want to win, be okay with winning, but be non competitive. To look at some things that you can do daily that will improve your overall atmosphere of your life and your appreciation of your age now, where you are now, work wise, all kinds of things. Just begin to daily look at and appreciate. Realize that even though there are times and things that you need to do and you'll do it alone, not necessarily dependent on others, but in keeping with and in believing to. And realizing that belief has value. Believe that what you're doing, that's kind of part of the self-evaluating. How is this valuable? And then begin to see a benefit, a challenge to. I've got a note here on my computer that to challenge myself. And I've got some things listed there. But we need to believe that what we're doing, what we're thinking, how we are interacting, not only has value to us individually, but to whatever the feedback is we get from others helps us to see the value and the worth. And then see a benefit to what we are pursuing. And without self-criticism. We may see the errors that we've made that's, now I see that and I'm thankful that fact became apparent to be seen. So, think you can do it? Well, I think you can. So, thanks for being here, and we will close the recording.